Is absolute morality right? Is it right to have an absolute moral code? If it is not, then what we have is subjective morality, which Christians and other groups have deemed wrong for a multitude of reasons. Just to name a few: abortion, murder, and justice, those being subjective. Really what it is it depends and it changes, right, on the subjectivity of the matter, on the circumstance, stuff like that. Now, to be fair, I believe that it's not just subjective as in, the way certain people and certain Christians will paint it as, oh, an atheist, will say murder is okay in every instance, abortion in every instance, justice, justice for something in every instance. I believe that it really comes down to, and it can come down to, let me rephrase, is a subjective consensus, which is, morals, right? Subjective morals that all can agree on, or a majority of the populace can agree on. So not just every single person has their own, which they still can. Again, this is just how my brain is working. That's why I have this like map all out, but a subjective consensus where it's like, a massive group of people can kind of agree on like, murdering children is wrong, even though nobody told them, like there was no absolute morality, that they all subjectively agreed that it's wrong, right? Again, that's subjective consensus. Now, this leads me back up to, absolute morality. Absolute morality would have to come from an authority, an absolute authority. And when you think of absolute authority, who do you think of? Of course, God, which not everybody likes God giving absolute morality to us, right? The reason I put all this out here, right, is really off of one thing, right? When it comes to this debate, something that I was thinking about was, in absolute morality, subjective morality, all this other stuff is, what does all of this kind of have in common? The people who, let's say, follow an absolute morality. So think of the Abrahamic religions, right? The Quran, the Hadiths, the Torah. I know there's others in Judaism. I apologize for not remembering the Bible. And in subjective morality, what's the one thing that they all have in common? Something that we are all born with, besides a heart and the ability to need to breathe and eat. What are we all really born with? Empathy. As young as humanly possible, though you are born with other things, empathy, the concept of helping people and understanding, putting yourself in their shoes, even to a very small degree. Children understand this. Children understand this, right? This empathy is really where I feel where the connections start, right? Empathy coming back to God, right? That I'll get to in a second, but empathy and how it relates to subjective morality, or really subjective consensus. How you having empathy means that you can understand, okay, even though, murder is wrong, it's justified if someone's coming after you, or abortion is justified if, the mother is dying, or maybe they don't have enough money, right? Or empathy is justified empathy can make, justice for like a crime, like a man, kills a man, so he should die because of the circumstance, right? Like empathy plays a part in this, right? And to really where it relates back to God is where I feel that is because empathy is something we are all born with. And if Christians want to say God, Yahweh, is the ultimate supreme authority, Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior, then it would you wouldn't have this in your brain. You would start with empathy. I say this just to map out what I have in my head of morality and how empathy plays a massive part in that. And something to think about is, not just, thinking about moral codes and morality as a whole. Is absolute morality right? Subjective morality, this subjective consensus, what our morals should be, but how empathy plays a part in that regardless. So even if theoretically you believe subjective morality is better than absolute morality, I feel that empathy, in order for us to truly come to the absolute right answer, I believe that empathy is a very good place to start, because that is really what I am trying to do, is trying to find a way that, again, if God is real, then we can find him in every trace possible, including starting with something we are all born with, and something that I believe every human being has to some degree. Well, okay, let me rephrase. Not every single human being. There are human beings that have no empathy or no, basic soul in them, but a lot of humans have empathy to some degree. And I think that that is really important for just, talking about in talks of morality and, how to get a concrete answer for that. So just a, food for thought.